President Trump's decision to issue strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities has sparked bipartisan efforts to reassert the power of Congress to declare war. But House Speaker Mike Johnson says the push to bring a resolution to the House floor is now irrelevant after the president announced a ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran. Here's what he said.
It's kind of a moot point now, isn't it? But if they file it as a privileged resolution, it's supposed to be on the floor within 15 days, but it seems rather silly at this point. And I hope they'll acknowledge it as such and put it to bed, because it had zero chance of passage anyway.
Less than 24 hours after the president's announcement of the ceasefire, Israel claimed Iran launched more missiles and vowed to retaliate. So I want to bring in CBS News Congressional correspondent Nikole Killion for the latest on all of this. Nikole, good to see you again today. What are you hearing from lawmakers about the war powers resolution?
Well, I think more of the focus in the discussion has been on this fragile ceasefire and whether or not it would hold. Certainly, there is a lot of concern on the part of some lawmakers as to whether or not the president overstepped his authority by not necessarily consulting with Congress ahead of time, which is why some lawmakers have been pushing for war powers resolution. Most notably, I would say just last night, we saw top Democrats on the House Foreign Affairs, Intelligence, and Armed Services Committee introduce a new resolution to remove U.S. armed forces from hostilities against Iran. So even if this were taken up on the floor for a vote, it still could be a couple of weeks out. There is a push here in the Senate to vote as soon as this week on a potential war powers resolution by Senator Tim Kaine. So we'll kind of have to see how that plays out. But I would just point to some comments that Speaker Johnson made a short time ago in his weekly press conference, where again he was discussing more this issue of the ceasefire, describing it as very fragile. He also said that he spoke with President Trump this morning. We know the president was quite frustrated. He used some colorful language to describe his frustration with Israel and Iran, but he said he spoke with the president about some of that frustration. And, the president at the time noted that he would be talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu, which we know that conversation has since occurred, with Netanyahu also coming out with a statement. But the speaker also noted that he would certainly convey the president's concerns to his counterpart in Israel at the Knesset. So, there have been multiple lines of communication there in terms of trying to ensure that this ceasefire holds. And that certainly is the hope that many lawmakers have here on Capitol Hill, especially as they await briefings later today, both in the House and Senate, on the state of affairs between Israel and Iran.
Yeah, and Senate Republicans, they're working on modifications to the president's so-called big, beautiful bill ahead of a potential vote later this week. So where does support for this bill stand right now?
Yeah, well, Leader Thune is determined to plow ahead with this package and hopes that his chamber will be voting on this by week's end, even as they scramble to make some last-minute changes. Some of it is because the process is different here in the Senate, where some of these provisions have to be cleared by the Senate parliamentarian, and the parliamentarian has struck some provisions down, such as some of the proposed cuts to the SNAP program. But then there are also some things that senators added on to this Senate package with respect to Medicaid and this issue of provider taxes. They changed some of the provisions around the state and local tax deduction, lowering that cap, which kind of frustrated some House Republicans. So there have been some negotiations happening behind the scenes to try to get everybody, both in the House and Senate, to a point and place of yes. And just a short time ago, the Speaker also addressed the big, beautiful bill, saying that he doesn't see any daylight between the House and Senate versions, even though some rank and file members feel differently. But he did make clear to his members that they should keep their schedules open and flexible ahead of the July 4th holiday, which is certainly the deadline that both Senate and House leaders are trying to meet.
And we shall see if they are in fact able to meet it. Nikole Killion, thank you for your reporting.